There comes a moment when you stop picking up the phone, stop rushing to reply, stop saying yes just to keep the peace. And suddenly, the world around you panics. They call you selfish. They say you've changed. But what really happened is this: you stopped being their puppet. Carl Jung warned us, the moment you withdraw your energy, the moment you stop being endlessly available, people reveal who they truly are. This video isn't about running away. It's about reclaiming your power, protecting your energy, and discovering why your silence is louder than any argument you could ever make. So let me ask you, are you ready to see how everything changes the second you stop being available? Have you ever noticed how society praises people who are always there? The ones who answer every text in seconds, who pick up the phone on the first ring, who never say no, who show up no matter how drained they are. We grow up believing this is what makes us good friends, good partners, good children, good people. Availability becomes our badge of honor, proof that we care, proof that we matter. But Carl Jung would have called this a dangerous illusion, because being endlessly available doesn't actually mean you're valued. It means you've become predictable. And what is predictable is easily controlled. Think about it. When you're always ready to respond, you're not acting from choice, you're reacting from habit. You've trained the world to see you as the yes person, the safety net, the one who bends so others don't have to break. And while that may look virtuous on the surface, underneath it's something darker, a quiet form of self-abandonment. Jung spoke often about the persona, the mask we wear to gain acceptance. Your availability is one of those masks. You smile when you want to scream. You say, "Sure, no problem," when your body aches with exhaustion. You rush to comfort others while secretly wishing someone would comfort you. It's not generosity, it's survival. Because somewhere along the way you were taught that love is conditional, that you have to earn it by being useful, agreeable, present at all costs. And so, availability becomes your currency. You buy connection with your time, your attention, your energy. The irony: the more you give it away, the cheaper it becomes. People stop respecting what is always accessible. Like water on tap, your presence feels infinite to them, so they never think about conserving it. They never think about how much it costs you to provide it. That's the illusion. You think being available will make people hold you closer, when in reality it makes them take you for granted. Picture this. Imagine a friend who never says no. You call at midnight, they answer. You ask for a favor, they show up. At first it feels comforting, right? But after a while, you stop appreciating it. You stop thanking them. You start expecting it. And when one day they can't show up, you're not grateful for all the times they did, you're angry at the one time they didn't. That's how availability works. The more you offer, the less it's valued. This is what Jung warned us about when he said the persona can become a prison. You play the role of the dependable one, the accommodating one, the fixer, and the role consumes you. You confuse the mask with your real self, forgetting that behind every yes there's a no you swallowed, a boundary you erased, a part of you that went unseen. But here's the hard truth. People aren't addicted to you. They're addicted to what you provide. Validation, distraction, emotional comfort. And the moment you stop giving those things, the illusion shatters. They realize they never really knew you. They only knew the version of you that was always available. Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves." Think about who gets irritated when you stop replying, when you take time for yourself, when you say no. Their reaction reveals not your failure but their dependency. Your withdrawal forces them to face their own discomfort, their own emptiness. And that's why they resist it so much. So why do we keep falling into this trap? Because deep down, we're terrified, afraid of being abandoned if we don't perform, afraid of being called selfish, afraid of being invisible if we stop shining for others. But the irony is, the more available you are, the more invisible you become. You fade into the background of other people's lives, a utility rather than a human being. And this is where transformation begins. The day you stop confusing availability with value is the day you reclaim your life. The day you realize your presence is a gift, not a given. The day you recognize that no one is entitled to your energy simply because they demand it. This is the illusion of availability. The belief that by being endlessly present for others, you will finally be seen. The truth is, you'll only be seen when you dare to step back, when you risk saying no, when you show the world that your worth doesn't lie in how quickly you respond, but in how authentically you live. At first, saying yes feels harmless. A favor here, a quick reply there. You tell yourself it's just being kind, just being supportive. But over time, those small yeses pile up into something heavier, something that drains not just your schedule, but your very spirit. Carl Jung believed the psyche is an energy system. Every thought, every emotion, every action consumes psychic energy. And here's the part most of us forget, that energy is finite. It's not infinite like we wish it to be. When you spend it carelessly, it runs out. And when it runs out, you don't just feel tired, you feel empty. Think about how often you've said yes when you wanted to say no. You agree to meet up even when you're exhausted. You answer the late-night call even when you're craving rest. You take on tasks at work that aren't yours because you don't want to disappoint. Each of those yeses costs you a piece of your energy. One piece might seem small, but after weeks, months, years of this cycle, you wake up wondering why you feel like a shell of yourself. This is the hidden cost of always saying yes. You lose yourself, one small compromise at a time. And here's the kicker. The people you're saying yes to rarely notice. They don't see the exhaustion in your eyes, the way you push aside your own needs. To them, your yes is just expected. It's automatic, part of the role you've trained them to expect. Like a vending machine, they press a button and you deliver. No one wonders what happens when the machine breaks down, when the light inside starts to dim. Jung once said, "That which you resist persists." And this is exactly what happens when you keep resisting your own number. The need doesn't go away. It builds. The resentment doesn't disappear. It festers. You keep showing up outwardly while inside you're screaming for space, for silence, for someone to finally say, "You've done enough." But no one will say it. That's your job. The cost of constant availability isn't just exhaustion, it's vulnerability. When you're depleted, you become easy prey. Manipulative people, opportunistic people, even well-meaning people who don't realize your limits, they all sense your openness. They sense that you won't say no, that you'll always pick up, always show up. And they use it. Not necessarily out of malice, but out of habit. People adjust to what you allow. If you allow endless access, they'll take it. And every yes you hand out makes you weaker in their eyes, not stronger. Why? Because abundance breeds devaluation. Just like Chapter 1 revealed, what is always accessible stops being respected. Your yes becomes cheap. Your time becomes disposable. The emotional cost runs even deeper. Saying yes when you mean no creates a split within yourself. Jung would have called this self-betrayal, the disconnection between your true self and the persona you present. Outwardly, you're agreeable, helpful, dependable. Inwardly, you're resentful, tired, unseen. That split is painful, and over time it becomes depression, anxiety, even physical illness, because the body keeps score of every sacrifice your soul didn't consent to. Let's make this real. Think of the last time you said yes but resented it. Maybe it was dinner with someone who always drains you. Maybe it was covering for a coworker again. Maybe it was forgiving someone who never really apologized. Did that yes give you peace? Or did it leave you feeling like you betrayed yourself? This is why Jung emphasized the importance of conserving psychic energy. He knew that a healthy psyche isn't one that reacts to every demand. It's one that chooses carefully where energy goes. It's one that knows how to pause, how to remain silent, how to say no without guilt. Because only then does your yes actually mean something. Imagine for a moment a life where your yes is rare, where it's given deliberately with presence, with joy, where people don't assume it but appreciate it. That's the life Jung was pointing toward, one where you reclaim your energy and offer it only where it truly belongs. So here's the harsh truth. Every yes you give away without thought is a no to yourself. And the cost of that self-abandonment is enormous. It's your peace, your vitality, your ability to hear your own voice beneath the noise of the world. The illusion says yes makes you loved. The reality says endless yes makes you invisible. And the moment you begin to grasp this, you'll understand why silence, boundaries, and even absence can sometimes be the most powerful yes of all, the yes to yourself. We live in a world that worships noise. Opinions shouted on social media, endless notifications, arguments that go nowhere. People mistake constant reaction for strength, but Carl Jung understood something different. True power isn't found in reacting, it's found in restraint, and nowhere is that clearer than in silence. Silence is terrifying for most people. Think about the last time someone expected you to respond, to a text, to an accusation, to an insult, and you said nothing. What happened? They probably panicked. They repeated themselves. They tried harder to get your attention. Why? Because your silence pulled the ground out from under them. See, when you react, you give away energy. You enter their game. But when you stay silent, the rules collapse. Suddenly they have no script. They don't know who you are anymore because they can't predict you, and unpredictability is threatening. Jung saw silence not as emptiness, but as presence. It's the refusal to be dragged into battles that aren't worth your spirit. It's the conscious choice to hold your energy instead of scattering it everywhere. And when you embody that, something almost mystical happens. People start to feel your presence more, not less. Let's make this real. Imagine someone insults you. Your instinct is to defend yourself, to prove them wrong, to explain. But what happens if you simply pause, breathe, and say nothing? That silence lingers longer than any words you could have spoken. It unsettles them because they can't control the narrative. They can't define you. And in that moment, you've shown more strength than 1,000 arguments ever could. But silence is not passive. This is where people misunderstand. Silence doesn't mean rolling over, hiding, or ignoring reality. Strategic silence is active. It's the choice to observe instead of react, to withhold instead of waste, to hold your center instead of losing it. It's the silence of sovereignty. Jung's concept of individuation, becoming whole, requires this kind of silence. Why? Because only in quiet can you hear your own voice. As long as you're reacting to the world, you're drowning in its noise. But when you pull back, you begin to notice patterns. You see how people push your buttons, how manipulation operates, how your own wounds make you vulnerable. Silence creates clarity, and clarity is power. Think about how many conflicts in your life were prolonged, not by the original problem, but by your reaction to it. The late-night argument that spiraled for hours, the text thread that went on for days, the comment section you couldn't stop responding to. All of that noise kept the conflict alive. Silence would have ended it instantly. There's a reason manipulators hate silence. They depend on your reactions. They need you to explain, to justify, to fight back. Because as long as you're reacting, you're playing the role they scripted for you. But when you go quiet, the script burns. They're forced to face themselves, and not everyone is ready for that. This is why silence feels dangerous. It doesn't just protect you, it confronts others with their own shadows. Jung said, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Your silence holds up a mirror. It exposes what people are hiding from, and that's why they call you cold, distant, arrogant. Not because you've changed, but because you've stopped playing the game. But silence comes with a price. It may cost you relationships built on dependency. It may make you misunderstood. It may leave you feeling isolated at first. Yet in that very solitude lies transformation, because silence isn't just about others, it's about you. It's the space where you stop betraying yourself, where you gather the fragments of your energy, where you learn to act from choice instead of impulse. And here's the paradox. The less you speak, the more your words matter. The less you react, the more powerful your presence becomes. True silence doesn't erase your voice, it amplifies it. Because when you finally do choose to speak, people listen. So here's the question. What battles in your life could have ended with silence? What arguments could you have avoided? What peace could you have protected if you had simply refused to react? This is not weakness, it's mastery. Silence is not absence, it's amplified presence. It's the power that comes when you realize you owe no one an explanation, that your energy is yours to protect, and that sometimes the loudest message you can send is to say nothing at all. And once you learn this, you'll see why Jung believes silence isn't just a strategy. It's a doorway, a threshold to becoming who you really are. Every transformation comes with resistance. The moment you stop being endlessly available, the moment you say no, go quiet, or pull back, people notice. And not everyone celebrates your growth. In fact, many will fight against it. Why? Because your change forces them to confront themselves. When you stop playing the role they relied on, their world shakes. And people don't like earthquakes. Think about it. For years, maybe even decades, you were the reliable one. the person who answered texts at midnight, the friend who listened for hours but never got asked how you were doing, the partner who kept forgiving, explaining, giving another chance. You became the emotional safety net, predictable, always available, always there. Now imagine that safety net suddenly gone. Imagine that puppet cutting the strings. What happens? The people who depended on your reactions, on your energy, suddenly lose control. And when people lose control, they panic. This panic takes many forms. Some will try to guilt you. You've changed. You're not the same person anymore. Others will get angry. Why are you ignoring me? Why are you being so selfish? Some will even play the victim. I guess I don't matter to you anymore. Here's the truth. All of this backlash isn't about you. It's about them. It's about the emptiness they now feel because you're no longer filling it for them. Jung called this projection, when people throw onto you what they can't bear to see in themselves. They call you cold because your silence forces them to feel their own loneliness. They call you selfish because your boundaries expose their entitlement. But let's be real. Backlash hurts. It's one thing to understand it intellectually, and another to feel it emotionally. When someone accuses you of being distant or cruel, a part of you wants to defend yourself, to prove you're not the bad guy. This is the trap. The moment you start explaining, you've already surrendered your power. Jung warned that individuation, becoming your true self, is often misunderstood by the collective. Why? Because most people would rather you stay predictable, stay small, stay useful. Your growth threatens their comfort, and threatened people react. The challenge, then, is learning to endure this discomfort without breaking. To face the criticism, the guilt trips, the accusations, and remain centered. This is where silence becomes your shield. You don't need to fight every accusation. You don't need to convince anyone. Your absence speaks for itself. Consider this. The people who truly love you, respect you, and value you will adjust to your boundaries. They may stumble at first, but they'll adapt. They'll learn to respect your no, to wait for your response, to value your time. Why? Because they care about you, not just what you provide. The ones who attack you, who guilt you, who can't handle your boundaries, those were never true connections. They were transactions, and transactions end the moment the supply is cut off. It's painful to see this clearly, but also liberating, because backlash is actually a filter. It reveals who's real and who's not. It shows you who values your presence and who only valued your availability. But Jung also warned of another danger, internal backlash, the voice inside you that says, maybe they're right, maybe I am selfish, maybe I shouldn't change. This voice is the shadow of your conditioning. Years of being told your worth comes from serving others don't disappear overnight. When you stop being available, guilt rushes in. This is where awareness becomes crucial. When guilt arises, ask yourself, is this guilt protecting my integrity, or is it punishing me for no longer betraying myself? If the guilt comes from choosing your own peace, that's not guilt, that's growth. The backlash, both external and internal, is proof that you're breaking old patterns, proof that you're stepping out of the role you were cast in and stepping into your authentic self. It's messy, it's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Here's what Jung would remind us. Individuation isn't about pleasing others. It's about becoming whole. And becoming whole requires disappointing people who only loved your fragments. So when the backlash comes, and it will, remember this. Their reaction is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to yourself, to your energy, to your growth. You don't owe explanations. You don't owe guilt. You owe yourself the chance to be free, because after the backlash comes something else, something quieter, deeper, and far more powerful. After the noise, after the accusations, after the guilt, comes rebirth. And that is where we're headed next. Up until now, we've been exploring the psychology of availability, why you give too much, how silence changes everything, and how backlash reveals the truth about relationships. But now comes the real question. How do you actually do it? How do you practice conscious unavailability without falling into guilt, self-doubt, or the fear of being misunderstood. Let's be clear. Conscious unavailability isn't about ghosting everyone, ignoring your responsibilities, or pretending you don't care. It's about becoming intentional with your energy. It's about choosing when to be present, and for whom. It's about protecting your center, so you stop scattering yourself everywhere and start living from a place of strength. Here are the practical steps. 1. Delay your response. In a world that glorifies instant replies, one of the simplest, yet most powerful things you can do is wait. Don't respond immediately to every text, call, or demand. Take a breath. Ask yourself, do I actually want to engage right now? If the answer is no, give yourself permission to pause. That pause breaks the cycle of predictability. It teaches others that your attention is not automatic, it's intentional. And more importantly, it teaches you that your time is your own. 2. Master the art of no without explaining. Most of us say yes when we mean no because we fear disappointing others. And when we do say no, we wrap it in endless explanations. I'd love to, but I'm just too busy. Maybe next time. Here's the truth. You don't owe anyone a courtroom defense for your boundaries. A simple, clear, no, I can't, is enough. Carl Jung believed individuation required learning to stand apart from the collective. Saying no is a practice in individuation. Every time you refuse to overextend yourself, you reaffirm your right to exist as a whole person, not just as a resource for others. 3. Use silence strategically. We've already seen that silence is power, but here's how to use it consciously. When someone tries to provoke you, manipulate you, or demand an explanation, resist the urge to react. Hold the silence. Let the discomfort sit in the air. This doesn't mean being passive-aggressive. It means refusing to fuel cycles that drain you. Silence is a boundary in itself. It says, I will not dance to your tune. 4. Protect your energy budget. Think of your energy like money in a bank account. Every reaction, every yes, every explanation is a withdrawal, and most people are overdrafting without realizing it. Conscious unavailability means setting a budget. Decide where your energy goes and where it doesn't. Reserve your best presence for the people and activities that actually nourish you. Jung wrote that the psyche functions as an energy system. If you let others dictate where your energy flows, you'll live in exhaustion. But when you choose, you build strength. 5. Redefine availability as a gift. This is the shift that changes everything. Stop seeing availability as an obligation and start seeing it as a gift. When you answer a call, give your time, or offer your attention, you are giving something valuable. That means it should be intentional, not automatic. Ask yourself, does this person value my presence, or do they just consume it? If it's the latter, you're not obligated to give them access. 6. Practice sacred solitude. Conscious unavailability isn't just about withdrawing from others, it's about returning to yourself. Make solitude part of your routine. Turn off the phone, sit in silence, go for a walk alone, journal, meditate. These aren't luxuries, they're practices of sovereignty. Because if you can't sit with yourself, you'll always run back to noise. 7. Expect resistance and hold the line. When you start practicing conscious unavailability, some people won't like it. They'll push harder, they'll accuse you of being selfish or distant. Expect this, anticipate it, and then hold the line. Remember, their discomfort doesn't mean you're wrong, it means you've stopped being predictable. And that's exactly the point. The final word. Conscious unavailability is about shifting from reaction to choice. It's about realizing your worth isn't measured by how quickly you respond, how much you give, or how endlessly available you are. It's about reclaiming your time, your energy, your peace. And when you begin living this way, something extraordinary happens. People start valuing you more. Because what is rare is respected, what is scarce is cherished, and what is consciously given has real power. Every ending feels like loss. When you first stop being so available, when you start saying no, delaying responses and protecting your peace, it feels like something is breaking. People pull away, some relationships collapse, the noise dies down, and what's left is silence. That silence can be terrifying. It feels empty, almost like standing in a dark room with no exit. But what if that room isn't emptiness? What if it's the womb, the birthplace of your rebirth? Carl Jung believed that individuation, the journey of becoming your true self, always begins with separation. You have to step away from the collective, from the masks, from the patterns that once defined you. That withdrawal isn't death, it's transformation. And out of the silence, a new self begins to form. The solitude that heals. At first, solitude feels like punishment. You wonder if you've made a mistake. You hear the old voices in your head whispering, "You're being selfish, you're pushing people away, you'll end up alone." But if you stay with it, if you hold the line long enough, something changes. That solitude becomes spacious instead of suffocating. You realize you're no longer drowning in other people's needs, moods, and demands. For the first time in a long time, you can hear your own thoughts. And beneath the noise, you discover clarity. This is what Jung called sacred isolation. It's not loneliness, it's communion with your own soul. Reclaiming lost energy. Think about how much of yourself you used to give away. Endless explanations, rushed replies, late-night rescues, emotional labor for people who never reciprocated. That constant leakage left you drained. Now, with your boundaries intact, that energy flows back into you. And what happens when you stop leaking? You recharge, you rebuild, you feel alive in ways you forgot were possible. You may notice small but powerful changes, sleeping deeper, thinking clearer, feeling lighter. Creativity begins to return. Motivation doesn't come from pressure or guilt anymore. It comes naturally, from within. This is rebirth. Redefining relationships. Here's a hard truth. Some relationships won't survive your transformation. The ones that depended on your constant availability will crumble. But what remains, and what grows, will be authentic. The people who stay are those who value you for who you are, not what you provide. They don't panic at your silence. They don't guilt-trip you when you say no. They meet you as an equal, not as a resource. For the first time, you're not in relationships based on survival or utility, but on resonance. These are the connections worth keeping. From reactor to creator. Before, your life was reaction. Every text, every demand, every emotional tug was a string, pulling you like a puppet. You danced to everyone else's tune. Now, by reclaiming your energy, you step into creation. Instead of reacting to life, you begin shaping it. You decide where your time goes, where your attention flows, and who earns a seat at your table. Jung believed that this shift, from unconscious reaction to conscious creation, is the very essence of individuation. It's the difference between living as a persona and living as a self. The quiet strength. The most profound change doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with fireworks or dramatic declarations. It comes quietly, almost imperceptibly, like dawn breaking after a long night. One day you'll notice the things that once triggered you no longer shake you. The manipulations that once hooked you now pass through you like smoke. The guilt that once kept you saying yes now dissolves into calm certainty. This quiet strength is the hallmark of rebirth. It's not about becoming cold or untouchable. It's about becoming whole. The final transformation. When you stop being constantly available, you stop abandoning yourself. And when you stop abandoning yourself, you finally come home. That is the rebirth Jung was pointing to. The moment you become rooted in your own being, you're no longer defined by how others see you, need you, or use you. You are defined by your own truth. And here's the paradox. By becoming less available to everyone, you become more valuable to yourself. And in turn, you become more valuable to the world, not as a servant of everyone's chaos, but as a grounded, authentic presence. This is the rebirth of self. It's the end of exhaustion and the beginning of sovereignty. So here's the truth. When you stop being endlessly available, you don't lose yourself. You finally find yourself. This isn't about shutting the world out. It's about choosing your peace over pressure, your energy over exhaustion, your authenticity over approval. Carl Jung believed that individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires courage. The courage to withdraw, to say no, to be misunderstood, and still remain true to yourself. The moment you stop being available to everyone, you become available to the most important person of all, you. If this message resonated, drop a comment below. I choose my peace. And if you want to keep diving deeper into Jung's insights, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell. so you won't miss what's coming next, because your rebirth is only just beginning.